The rumor mill is saying that All Stars 11 is already in the can and is on its way to the editing floor. Which is nuts, by the way. And this is a huge mistake, in my opinion, because it gives them no opportunity to learn from the very clear problems that already exist here in All Stars 10 that they are not prepared to deal with in All Stars 11. That's a discussion for another video, like a very long discussion. Today, I'm going to be sharing my completely delusional dream wish list for All Stars 11. And I know that there's already a lot of rumors who's on the casting. I've seen like a good handful of names. I don't pay attention to rumors just because I don't have time for it. And I decided to choose these people whether or not they would say yes, because I'm sure a lot of them would not. And also I don't think WoW would ever ask 80% of these queens to come and be on this season. And that's fine. It's what I wish would happen, not what would really happen. I want to create a fantasy world where all of my favorites come together and battle with queens that I think deserve another chance or deserve an opportunity, deserve somewhere that they can get an even bigger platform or re-platform themselves or re-establish themselves in the eyes of the overall Drag Race fans. A place where they can show off their talents and their artistry without fear of going home for a couple of weeks so that they can all just really show what they have. And I will be including some international queens in this roster because in my opinion, I think we should start folding them in to mainline All-Stars. If we're gonna keep churning out these seasons every year, which I think is also a mistake. I really feel like we should be waiting several years between All-Stars. And if we're going to not give Versus the World to other countries to host, then I think we need to start folding in these queens with some of the mainline girls, because a lot of fans will only watch the mainline series these days, which I think is also a mistake. And so I think if you get some of these international girls on a season with fan favorites of the mainline season, people will tune in to watch them and then will explore out to what their original season was and eventually start supporting those girls. We've seen queens like Marina Summers who ended up on the eyes of many, many, many people because a lot of eyes were on Drag Race UK. And now people are obsessed with Marina. And I think the same happened even with UK1. Is people started to pay attention to Pangina where there were not a lot of eyes on Thailand. Even Holland got a resurgence of people interested because they were so interested in what Janie was doing. So I think that we should be putting these girls on the same stage, get RuPaul the hell away from some of these international girls. I think that Ru should not be hosting necessarily anymore, but that's also another discussion for another day. Because Ru just can't get away from her biases anymore, and that is so very evident and clear. And so I know that a lot of conversation will be, well, don't put these queens in front of Ru because she'll just send them home first. But in this tournament of All Stars, no one goes home for a couple episodes, so Ru can't send them home right away. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Let's get into it. So I've themed all of these bracket colors after Pokemon. Bracket 1 is Ruby. And the theme for this is Returners. I want to get the returning queens out of the way of this bracket because there are some that I feel deserve another chance. And I have gone in on how I don't think that Georges should have been on 10 and how Ginger shouldn't have been on 10. I personally don't have a problem with a queen like Aja, who got snubbed out of her All-Stars season and is now a completely different human being than she was in All-Stars 3. Georges was just on a season prior to this one, and Ginger was on one a couple years ago, but she hasn't done anything that's brand new. Her drag hasn't evolved to some place that we've never seen Ginger Minj at. These queens are queens that I genuinely think are very different than their first time around, or they did not get proper treatment the first time around. One of them maybe is not that same scenario, but I think should be on a grander stage. So that's the theme for this bracket. First out, I would like to see Nina Flowers. This is someone I'm genuinely shocked has not reappeared on All Stars since they have been recycling all of the All Stars 1 girls into the mainline series. I think that of all of them, Nina is one that should come back first and foremost. I don't know if she's ever been offered or asked, but she should be. Nina's a queen who the first time around, I think was not really on the radar to go far, but was just so good that she didn't lip sync ever once. She never landed in the bottom because she was that good. Even the winner of that season landed in the bottom. Nina's big conceptual brain, I think, was too grand for what Drag Race had their sights on at the time, which was breaking into mainstream media and getting drag queens on billboards that say RuPaul's Drag Race this Friday at 8 o'clock in Vegas. They had their sights on big grand projects, and I think that if Nina had won that very first season, I don't think it would have reached the audiences that they were trying to connect with. BB was. So when Nina came back for All Stars 1, I think that totally made sense. She was a finalist. She was this close to the win, like so many of those other girls were. And Nina was very harmed by being with Tammy. And so it bums me out that Nina went home second, because I don't think that she should have gone home that early. She didn't do well in Gaffin, but also that season being teams also really harmed Nina. If it was a regular season, I think it's possible Nina could have gone a lot farther. So I would really like to see Nina Flowers get her flowers and get to come back, especially in a non-elim section of the season. I think she would really turn it out and remind people why she got to that finale in the first place. I know that she's a very different person now, but I would like to see that on TV again. Again, I don't know if she'd ever do it or be interested, but that's what I would like to see. As a matter of fact, she should have been asked years ago. Nina should have been on maybe All Stars 6. Next who I want to see for this bracket is Adore. I think Adore has said multiple times that she is neither here nor there about going back to Drag Race. That if she were to go back, she would want to do her fire-breathing talent show that she wanted to do in All Stars, like 6 or 9, it was one of those two, and they told her no. Maybe they asked her for 8. I can't remember which one they asked her for, but she asked to do a specific talent show. They said no, she said no. So I would love to see Adore get another opportunity, because in All Stars 2, Michelle really went in for no reason on Adore. They were trying to establish All Stars is different now. All Stars is a different game. And Michelle went way too hard, got eaten up by the fans, and reeled in her critiques. That was a strong moment for Michelle's overall storyline and growth, I think, in the competitive Drag Race universe, because she learned how to, I think, temper her critiques, maybe to a point where they have been neutered to ridiculousness, saying that some looks are Marie Antoinette when they have nothing to do with Marie. But at least she's not ripping into these girls and reading the dog shit out of them anymore. I think that Adore was very badly mistreated, and I think that she is a strong queen. She has a cool aesthetic, a cool idea of who she is, and I would like to see that given another opportunity. Next, I want to see Coco Montrese for this bracket. Coco, I think, much like Adore, got very unnecessarily harshly critiqued. Here's the tea, and Coco has said it many times. She was supposed to do Janet for that original talent show, and they told her yes up until a couple of days before it all happened, and then she had to re-choreograph an entire number based on that stupid herp-da-derp-da-derp music that they gave her. That was unfair. First off, to Coco, because she's an excellent entertainer. She knows what she's doing and she can deliver the goods, but when you give her garbage, you can't expect her to create lemonade. And I think it was quite unfair to expect Coco to just work it out and figure it out when they gave her no materials to do so. Coco is a brilliant entertainer who's been brought back to be a lip sync assassin in All Stars 6 for a reason, because she is such a solid performer. She's very good at a lot of aspects of Drag Race. Like, she did pretty good in her sewing challenge. She was decent enough in some of those early challenges before she was super distracted by Alyssa and Jinx. And I think she's got some strong concepts. She knows how to bring that to TV now. She's very funny. And I think some of that old school drag is what is really needed on current modern Drag Race. People that are sort of unaffected by the machine of it all and are not presenting this cat character on TV. Coco is just good old school drag, and I love to see that. That's why I enjoyed Nicole and Phoenix on their respective brackets, not because they were performing so excellently, but because they don't have this tainted lens of what drag is, where a lot of modern drag performers going on the show are products of Drag Race. So they interpret their decisions differently. they package their words differently. And I think that Coco is a great example of that old school drag that just doesn't care about the modernity of where Drag Race is for TV. That is so desperately needed on the show right now. Next, I want to see Marina Summers. I know that I said that I was not too happy about Ginger and Georges being here because of their recency and not really changing much about their drag. I do feel like Marina, even though it was recent that she was on an All Stars adjacent season, I think that her drag has changed and evolved. She has a spot in Vegas now. She is doing really great things with Work the World and Celebrity Illusion, and that moment where she was passing out money to the audience was so charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent like I have never seen before in my life. Marina had a wonderful run on Drag Race Philippines season 1, had a really great run in UK versus the World too. I think Marina knows her drag aesthetic, knows how to package that for Drag Race and bring it to the camera. And Marina is this really wonderful intersection, I think, of international drag that American audiences are not really used to seeing, meets this place where televised drag fans are sort of expecting drag to be at. She can blend both of these things seamlessly and flawlessly, and I think that should have an even bigger platform. And I think being with other queens that are of her similar caliber, I think she would be a good returning queen. On top of the fact that I just think that she is cool and I want to see Marina again on TV. Fifth in this bracket, I want to see Jiriji Dirkli. I'm almost positive that Jiriji speaks English because I think she said she speaks Spanish, French, and English. So Jiriji would be able to hold her own in a scenario like this. Jiriji was in España All-Stars, and from what I saw, she made it to the near end. I haven't watched it because I don't know some of the queens, but I will be watching it sometime, I think in the beginning of next year. Jiriji, I loved her original run. I think that Jiriji is so stunning and so funny. I loved that moment where she pulls out her puss phone and just says, "Hello, it's me, the one who's always doing the same thing in the competition. Oh, it's you, the one who's always doing funny stuff? Goodbye." It should be studied how absolutely CUNTY Jiriji is. She's just it. Such a talented singer, and if they front-loaded the talent show in each bracket like I would love to see, whatever she did would be through the roof. I don't think Drag Race mainline would be ready for what Jiriji could do. She has great looks, a great concept of who she is. And then the last one for this bracket that I would like to see is the third All-Stars 2 queen, and that is Tatiana. There are a couple All-Stars seasons that I give passes to bringing people back that didn't necessarily go all the way to the end. And that is All-Stars 1, All-Stars 2, All-Stars 5, and All-Stars 8. Here's the reasons why for all of those. All-Stars 1 was a duo season. They were completely cucked by that. All-Stars 2 was an experimental season. They had no idea what they were getting themselves into. All-Stars had been off TV for 4 years. Half of those girls that went home early were still kind of adjusting to the air and the atmosphere of what All-Stars was, that they didn't get a proper shake. All-Stars 5 was a season where they completely shook up the format, and I think half those girls were not ready to get their track records cucked, but everyone was in the bottom starting in Snatch Game. And then All-Stars 8 was a train wreck from start to finish. It was very clearly a setup to make sure that Jimbo won, and so all of these girls who were early outs got steamrolled by Jimbo and Candy, who were kind of ultimately the end goal, I think. Some of those girls didn't have a chance, and so I give passes to a lot of those girls to get revisits into the competition. Tatiana is someone who I think the producers were on a warpath to nuke her trajectory, because in Snatch Game, Tatiana shouldn't have gone home because Adora walked out. That should have been like any other time in the more recent years that someone's walked out and no one went home, because the competition integrity was harmed. And if Tatiana had not gone home, she would have lasted a little longer. Tatiana also should not have been in the bottom during the branding challenge. There were people that were way worse than Tatiana that week. And I think they were hell-bent on making sure that she did not go far. Tatiana is someone who rebranded so fiercely by the time that she got to All-Stars 2. We were all so excited that Tatiana was there. She was the girl that said what was on her mind in season 2. She was unafraid to be her. And that fearlessness, I think, is what shook a lot of those girls. They didn't know how to approach that fearlessness when it comes to drag. I think the producers didn't even know how to approach that. She was just unapologetically her, and that's always intimidating to people when someone is just them and doesn't leave any room for you to bring them down. She is strong in lip syncing, she is a good actor, she is funny. I think that Tatiana is kind of a complete package, and I would love to see her get another opportunity all of these years later, where she is definitely a very different queen, and it's been a very long time since All-Stars 2. I think she would fit in with this group because half of it is All-Stars 2, and so I think it would be interesting to see what those girls did alliance-wise. If they would form an alliance at all, or if they would just try and do their own thing. It would be interesting to see. And that ends bracket 1. So now let's move into bracket 2, which is the Emerald bracket. The theme of this one is wild cards. Initially, I had this group as the closer for this season, but the more I thought about it, the more I felt like I wanted to save the most anticipated queens for the end of the season, or at least my most anticipated queens. So this theme is wild cards. People who are kind of good at a lot of different aspects, people who bring a lot of interest to their drag, people who could go any different way with the challenges that may be presented. And so to start us out is Gigi Good, a queen that came in swinging in season 12 and had a wonderful trajectory through her entire run. Gigi is one of those queens that I think a lot of us initially thought should have won her season. Doing a rewatch, it was totally Jada's, and Jada had that in the bag from the get-go, in my opinion. I think that Gigi was super strong and rightfully won a lot of challenges. I think she was very strong in her aesthetic, but that's changed now. That's been updated. She has become even more realized. I don't think that she would say yes is the thing. I am pretty positive that Gigi would not say yes to All-Stars. And I think that's fine. This is a wish list for a reason. It's a fantasy for a reason. I think about her moments in Snatch Game where she was playing this robot that Rue was worried about, didn't think was going to be good, and she exceeded expectations. I think about these moments in the Madonna Rusical where I don't think anyone was expecting Gigi to be able to embody someone that wasn't just her, but she embodied who Madonna was. And she brings this polished creativity to her drag. What I want to see from All-Stars are these well-rounded queens who can kind of do everything, but I also want to see someone who is so confident in everything they do that even if it's not technically perfect, they believe in themselves. And I think Gigi brings that to the competition. First and foremost is this confidence, this lack of fear, this poised, reckless abandon to move forward and blaze the trail, knowing that it'll be okay because they're doing it. And that's what I think of with Gigi. Next in this bracket, I want to see Mystique Summers. I've heard rumors that she might already be on season 11, and I'm okay with that. Mystique is someone who has changed so much since season 2. Like, this is a completely different human being. And I think Mystique is one of the few from season 2 that we haven't had on an All-Star season yet. She has the most quoted line in probably all of Drag Race. Bitch, I am from Chicago. And that reference alone is why she should be brought back. Because if the show is going to capitalize off of her marketing and reference her again and again and again, bring this bitch back and let her give new sound bites. Because that's what those old school queens did. They gave sound bites. And I know that Mystique has more locked and loaded in the chamber, ready to fire off, that we will consume and start spitting back for years to come. I would like to see what a lot of those older queens from season 1 to 4 would do if they were given another opportunity. How much has their drag changed? How much have their presentations changed? How have they gone from some of these early outs to someone who could potentially make the next bracket. People loved Nicole Paige Brooks because she was unafraid to say what was on her mind. And I think Mystique would be very similar. I don't think she would be afraid to speak her mind and share whatever was on it, give her authentic drag, and we're missing that so hard. Everyone is so canned these days. Everyone is boxed and packaged with the colors that they've had a team look at and make sure that it was aesthetically right, that the bow was just perfect, because we're in the age of content right now. Everyone is producing their own branded content. And I think Mystique comes from an era where you just don't do that. You just are you. You do drag for the love of it. And I think it would be great to see her back on TV again. And if she made it through and Tatiana made it through, seeing these early season queens together again, I think would be magic. Mystique was someone who was not doing that great in her original season, but it has been so long that the board is scrubbed clean. It's not like a queen like, say, Gigi, who was just on TV a couple of years ago. We all have a kind of fresh idea of what that drag looked like, what that presentation looked like. But Mystique has been off TV for so long. Hundreds of queens have been between her run and now, that it would be refreshing, because we don't know what to expect from her. We have literally no idea. In the same way that we didn't really know what to expect from Jessica Wilde coming back in All Stars 8. I think in the same way we didn't know what to expect from maybe Phoenix or Nicole. Even Chanel in All Stars 9. There's that excitement that's generated around this person who we haven't seen on TV in so long, who a lot of people are not necessarily keeping up with. What are they gonna do if they're back on TV again? We need that wild card. Next for this bracket, I would love to see Kim Chi, one of the most incredible visual artists, I think, of the entire franchise, and set a solid road mark for where visual queens need to be. Up until season 8, there were a handful of queens that came through the casting. Look at like Nina Flowers starting us out. Fame was a visual queen and was aesthetics first. And these queens pushed it, but where Kim really came in was taking that visual aesthetic and punching it up with even more personality. I think Nina was fierce. Didn't really give a lot to TV because that's not what she was really expecting to do. I don't think a lot of those girls were expecting to put TV into their presentation, punching in personality too. They were just presenting their art, because that's what drag was before. It was presenting your art, performing the hell out of it, getting tipped and going home. And then when Fame came on, it was kind of a product of Drag Race, kind of a product of Top Model. Present a fierce, glamorous look, and there's nothing really behind it, because that wasn't what Fame's long-term goals were. Kim came in with this visual aesthetic of being this cute anime girl that was all looks, but then the personality behind it was this dweeby doof and was so funny. Kim's visual artistry went into wacky storytelling, where a lot of the visual girls before that didn't really do so, and Kim set a bar that visual queens from that point forward had to have personality. Kim is one of those girls that came into the show being good at one or two things and slowly learned that she was better than she thought at other challenges and just would restrain herself. She would start and hit the gas and then immediately hit the brakes. And I think other queens that season did that as well. They were trying to connect the pedal to the metal and would just stop. And I think now, all these years later, Kim has so much more of a refined idea of who she is, what her drag looks like, what she can do and how she can present it, that she wouldn't be reserved or restrained or afraid to do that anymore. She would just do it and go for it. Her runways were so elevated and All Stars ready at that point, and they would be even stronger now. And there have been rumors that she's been asked multiple times to come back. I think she said no multiple times. I don't think Kim will ever come back. And I guess that's why I put her in the wildcard bracket, because I don't believe that she would do it. But again, it's a fantasy and a wish list, and this is who I would like to see have an opportunity of 3 or 4 episodes of non-elimination, just show the artistry. Next that I would like to see just got announced on Slation Royale before I made this list, but I'm still putting her here anyway, and that's Brigading. I'm kind of tired of pretending that I'm not a Brigading stan. When this video posts, Drag Race Philippines Season 1 on my weekly podcast will not have posted, but we've already filmed that and sent that into the queue. Brigading is someone who I think I was not featuring initially, but I was fighting being a stan because I think that Brigading is funny. Brigading is someone who is so unabashedly her, but learned in the competition that maybe there's still room to grow and that she could still be better, stronger, more refined. I love that she was open to the critiques and didn't resist them, that when she was told, do this, she opened up her mind to allow those critiques to set in and tried to just have fun with them going forward. Brigading had some incredibly strong and conceptual looks, tackled the challenges with a little bit of a twist, always brought this level of glam and poise and refinement with these kind of elements of grunge or silliness or campiness. And I think was trying really hard to, at the time, be what the show wanted her to be. Doing what she thought Drag Race wanted. But I think she gets herself more now, and that's what I've seen from the promo for Slation Royale. I would love to see what she would do now. I'm very, very, very excited for her run in Slation Royale. I hope that she kills it because I am fully prepared to stand behind her and root for her the entire time because I think that she's it. Next in this bracket is someone who I 100% know that the show would probably never ask to come back, someone who is having a very hard time in life right now, but I would hope that if they're still giving stipends that this would help and would especially push this person back into the limelight so maybe they could get more bookings, more gigs, work more, and be able to take care of themselves better, because I know that this person is struggling to find work right now, and that is Stacey Lane Matthews. I think that she's couture. I think that Stacey is one of the funniest queens from those earlier days. She is the progenitor of Henny, and we all use Henny to death. Rue uses Henny to death. It is time to bring this girl back and give her her dues for setting a spark that ignited an entire world of Henny this, Henny that, Henny everything. Stacey is someone who did well in the improv challenges, did well in the acting challenges, struggled a bit in sewing, but hey, who doesn't? I think that she's got a cool look to her. She's got that mug so hard. And again, we need those old school girls to come in and bring this refreshing take on drag, that their personality and persona that's underneath the artist doesn't have to be so this, because the girls come in now and they're just boxed and they are very careful, and you see these little fidget moments where they want to say what's on their mind and they want to be shady, but they're afraid of the camera, they're afraid of the keyboard warriors, they're afraid of the backlash, and so they keep their mouths shut. They don't talk. They don't present personality. Stacey is dripping with personality. It came out of her in season 3. She walked in those doors a little quiet, but still had it, that charisma in buckets. And I would love to see Stacey come back and get to show an updated, even more glamorous version of who she was back then. Because with the stipend, she could really put that money into maxing out her drag package, and I would love to see her on TV again. The rumors are that she was supposed to be on All Stars 4 and they axed her last minute, which I think was such a huge mistake. She would have been a great addition to that cast, but I want to see her now, and I want to see her get booked and blessed, because this diva needs some assistance. She is on her Instagram almost every week asking people for help. And it's because Drag Race has oversaturated the market. She can't really work anymore. No one's gonna hire someone from all those years ago when someone fresh and brand new is on TV now. I mean, hell, I just got an advertisement that Nicole Paige Brooks is gonna be at the Hamburger Mary's. Like, Nicole was not out here a couple of years ago. When I was still performing at Hamburger Mary's, I didn't see Nicole Paige Brooks on the roster, but she's getting booked now. And I think that is what Stacey needs. And I don't want to just cast someone because they need it. I want to cast someone because they're that good, and I think Stacey is that good. And I think it would help her. And the show should be trying to uplift these queer performers that built the rubric and the thesis of what Drag Race has become now. Does that make sense? Am I crazy? Last in this bracket is someone who, again, I don't think would say yes, but I would love to see Jocelyn Fox. Jocelyn Fox is someone who never got eliminated, technically, because her episode doesn't exist in the US because of the lawsuit. I think that Jocelyn is one of the funniest queens that has ever been on Drag Race. She had such a clear point of view, and you kind of have to be very smart to play that dumb on camera, because every time I've seen Jocelyn talk about anything or seen her posts, she's smart. This bitch is very intelligent. I think some of her missteps by saying cup of soup instead of cup of tea, that was intentional. In another universe, her Teresa Johnson would have won Snatch Game. In another universe, her character saying gasp would have won the horror challenge. In another universe where Drag Race wasn't trying to completely negate that Georgia wrote about her abortion in her book, she would have been high in that interview challenge for asking real life questions and knowing the source material and being studied and being charismatic and not being afraid to go there when drag should not be afraid to go there. In another universe, Jocelyn was top 4, and I will ride or die on that hill. I made a video on another channel a long time ago that I've been thinking about revisiting and rejudging season 6, because my spiciest opinion is that Jocelyn should have gone to top 4 or 5. I know that's crazy, but I think she could have gone really, really, really far. She's someone who does a little more casual drag. I don't think Jocelyn's drag is necessarily that bombastic. But these days, it feels like Drag Race cares about the runway until it doesn't. If you're good enough in the challenge and you make Rue laugh and you're funny and improvisational, they don't really care if your drag does not look like Violet Chachki's drag, to be frank. You could go on and have a kind of simple look, as long as you're funny and interesting. Some of the more recent winners have won by not necessarily being the pinnacle of what I think a lot of us assume drag had to look like. You could spend all the money in the world on your package, but if you're not that interesting, the judges don't really seem to care anymore. Look at Anya Nerve, our most recent winner, who didn't have the most spectacular garments that ever existed. Sam Starr did have some incredible garments that were walking that runway and that were in that finale, but Anya still won that season. And Jules, who also had a pretty simple drag look, had so much personality and charisma that she made top 2 for a reason. I think that Jocelyn is exactly the type of queen that Drag Race rewards now, because they've got all of that personality underneath it all. I think that Jocelyn would be a great addition to a current All-Stars, because she's that kind of middle point of where Drag Race was really leaning in on TV. And I think she picked up on that and amped up her volume. She wasn't just giving personality-less dummy. She was giving high levels of intelligent stupidity that Drag Race also loves now, and was cranking up her TV personality. That's precisely the type of person that they cast and want to see and reward heavily on the show now. And now we move to bracket 3, the Sapphire bracket, and the theme of this one is performers. So to start us out, we have Dita Ritz, who I know has been asked many times and has said no multiple times. I understand why Dita wouldn't want to go back. The show is not looking out for the best interests of the queens, and I don't think that Dita would get a wonderful edit, but maybe she would in an All-Stars where they can't send you home for several episodes. Dita has inarguably one of the most iconic lip syncs of the entire franchise. This will be in front of Natalie Cole was so many levels of nerve, and doing it flawlessly, taking that bar of what Drag Race performance was and a lip sync performance, and taking that bar and putting it up here that a lot of people just did not reach for many years. It took a long time for people to reach that level of excitement that this will be had. I don't want to say that nobody had it between 4 and 11, but I think it was not for me until Evie and Brooke did Sorry Not Sorry that bar of This Will Be finally got kind of reached. I think a lot of people got very close to it. With Dita's drag, it is very casual, in the same way that a lot of these other queens have been. And if they cannot eliminate them based off their looks, then Dita has another opportunity to represent why so many of us fell in love with her in the first place. Why she is an incredibly talented performer. Because Dita was great in acting. In another universe, she won that prison acting challenge. She was good at improv, because I still think that her Wendy Williams Snatch Game was hilarious. She was just sabotaged by these lunatics in the front row who were causing so much chaos for absolutely no reason. And she got smushed right in the middle of it all. And I think that Dita stood out in that season as someone who understood who she was open to the feedback to grow, but also just kept doing her. She was like, this is my drag, and if you don't like that, then send me home. I'm gonna keep doing it. And I think that was what was fantastic about her. I think she's good TV. She has a good sense of self. And I keep saying it again and again, but that old school mentality of drag is so needed in modern Drag Race. I think that Dita is unafraid of the machine. She's unaffected by it. And she would be a good time gal to watch. And I think if she ever got to lip sync again, if she won a challenge or two, we would be in for a treat. Speaking of in for treats, my second person that I would like to see in this bracket is Neera Nuff from Canada's Drag Race Season 4. Neera is one of my favorite performers of all time. Every time she got to lip sync was like heaven to me. I think about her moment in Black Velvet with Aurora. That moment in Come Through, where she dog walked Amy Yonsei Chanel across that stage, doing every trick in the book, but doing it as if she planned and choreographed it for weeks. Neera is one of the best performers, and she's very solid at what she does. She may be a hot glue gun girl, but she is solid at other aspects of Drag Race. Her Jennifer Coolidge was funny in Snatch Game. I think she is a decent enough actress, a decent enough improver that she could get her way through those challenges and stand out. I think that she would be fun to experience because those Canada girls are very different from the US girls. They go on to Canada's Drag Race and they don't get as many opportunities. The pool of Drag Race is so small up there. They all kind of come from the same bars, they know each other, and then they all go back to the same bars. It's not like they're traveling internationally or anything. And so they bring a little more authenticity. It's not like Drag Race US. They have to be real in themselves, because if they go back to the same 3 bars they've been working at for their entire drag career, people will be like, who were you? That wasn't who you are here. So they have to be a little more authentic. And I think that Neera is someone who figured out how to bring her authenticity and punch up that volume to something that was interesting for the camera. I think that Rue would enjoy her. I think that she would be fun to see on a US All-Stars, and I think she would keep up with US Queens. Next who I want to see is one of the most anticipated for me for an All-Stars that I just keep hoping and praying and wishing that we'll see her again, and that is my favorite performer of Season 7, Jaden Dior Fierce. My God, do I love Jaden. I think she's a great actress. I think she's very, very funny. I think that she's naturally charismatic, if maybe not the best at applying those skills in improv, or at least what we saw all those years ago. And it has been a very long time since she's been on TV, so I think she would have grown by then. Jaden is someone who I think the camera just ate up. She was great TV. If Jaden has figured out now how to apply her to what Drag Race expects, she would soar these days in a modern All-Stars. And much like these other people that I brought up, Jaden has some of my favorite lip syncs because she is that girl. If they did a lip sync SmackDown extravaganza of some kind, whether it be all of the cast or the eliminated queens, Jaden would eat so severely. We would not be ready. And if we got to see Jaden and Neera go off together, that would be electric. I can't say enough good things about Jaden Dior Fierce. I got to see her perform live once, and she was bucking like I have never seen before. Her and Laganja have probably been some of the most magnetic performers I've ever gotten the pleasure of seeing live, and I'm so glad that I got to, because she just does the thing. She makes me as an audience member excited to see what she's gonna do next. I remember when the curtains would open, I was like, what is she gonna do now? How is she gonna perform this? I'm so excited. And I think she brings that to TV as well. Next in this bracket, I would love to see Jackie Cox. Jackie is someone who I think should have been invited to go back to season 12 after the DQ happened. Like, they should have called her up, got her Zoom package, and brought her back in so that she could participate in that finale. I think about Jackie in all of these different challenges that she could have won, like Gay's Anatomy, that she could have won. I think about her in that branding challenge that she could have won for her Magic Merkin. I think about her in that one-woman show that she could have won. Drag Race has unfortunately, since I want to say about season 11 or 12, has been focused more on making Rue laugh than authenticity. If you bring a level of vulnerability to the show now, they don't really care if you don't make them laugh. See Kylie in the Charisma, Uniqueness, Urban Talent monologues, where she delivered one of the most heartfelt, interesting messages that I've ever seen, but then Eureka talked about shitting her pants and won that challenge. Jackie is someone who brings authenticity to Drag Race, and I wish that the show cared more about that. And maybe it's stupid to ask her to come back when she brings vulnerability and the show doesn't reward that. Maybe that's dumb, but I want to see that. Drag Race used to want to see that. They told girls prior to season 9, you've got to get people to like you. You've got to bring vulnerability. You've got to bring this human side to you that we want to see as an audience. But Drag Race doesn't care about that anymore. They want to see your prepackaged version of your drag persona. They want to know what this character is and how hard you can make RuPaul laugh, which I think is kind of dumb. In this world where we have Drag Race queens coming out every 5 minutes, I want to see someone who's just real, and I think Jackie is that. I think she's someone who is good at every single lane that Drag Race wants you to be good at, and it would be a treat for me, and I think all of us as an audience, to see what she would bring to television a couple of years after she's been on TV, and I'm a stan. Next in this bracket, I think makes the most sense for the Sapphire bracket, is Sapphira Cristál, someone who easily could and should have won her season, who I think was very snubbed in her run. Sapphira was so good at quite literally everything, just didn't have a crazy stunt or reveal for that final lip sync, which cost her the win. I've complained a lot about prepackaged characters. Sapphira comes off like someone who has their branding on lock, but it's not forced. There are a handful of queens that come onto the show that are branded really spectacularly because they have looked at what Drag Race wants and they've refined down that drag to be the product. Again, we're in the age of content. And Sapphira is someone who I think managed to connect those pieces without being inspired by the show, because her drag is not reminiscent or familiar from what Drag Race wants. She found this way to blend what I've talked about a lot of these other queens, just saying what's on her mind and being authentic, with what Drag Race wants you to do. Her moment of that talent show where she's doing this fierce operatic moment and singing about something nonsensical and stupid that makes Rue laugh. She takes both these pieces of her and what Drag Race wants and squishes them together in this box that is Sapphira Cristál. I love her personality. I love listening to her talk. She would be the narrator of that season down. And it would be a joy to see her again. I know that it's been very recent that she was on the show, so we wouldn't, I think, see immaculate levels of growth. But what I do think we would see is someone who is hungry for the win and would go for that win without stepping on anybody else to get there. We have seen in All Stars 10, even All Stars 9, of people that stepped on others to get to the end, who wanted it so badly because they didn't get it their first time around. And I think Sapphira has this lovely authenticity that does not allow her to be mean and chaotic in that way. She's light. She is brightness in what I think is a very dull, dimly lit machine that is Drag Race now. I just can't say enough good things about Saphira. She's so good at literally everything, and I want to see her again. And then the last one from this queen is someone who I have praised so many times. Someone who, if you've watched any of my Drag Race Simulator videos, I've included her a lot because I do think she's that good, and that's Vanda Miss Joachim. I'm actually gooped that Vanda is not in Slation Royale over someone like Siam, who I think is fun, but I think Vanda is the slay girl of all of Drag Race Thailand, right next to Godland, in my opinion. I think that Rue would eat up Vanda. Rue would love Vanda Miss Joachim. She's someone who has a very polished sense of what her drag is, what that looks like, and how she wants to present it. She has a fun character, and I think that she's silly. She is exactly what I think Rue would gravitate towards. And in Thailand season 2, where Vanda originally appeared, I think Art and Pangina were picking up what she was putting down, but we're still a little hesitant to connect with her because I think what Vanda was doing was not quite at the level of polish that they both wanted to see. It's been several years, so Vanda has a stronger aesthetic now, has a bigger budget to present the drag that she wants to do. I have watched her on Instagram for a little over a year now do this thing that I just connect with. She is one of the best performers of the international seasons, in my opinion, and I think she would beat just about anybody in a lip sync down. They could not put her in a lip sync for the crown against someone like Georges because she would beat Georges objectively and hands down. Vanda is someone who I think again brings a lot of authenticity, and that's what I resonated with her, is that authenticity meets what Drag Race wants. Squishing those together, she would be a great addition to this group because all of them are kind of that. They know how to be them and give what the TV wants to see, what the competition wants to see. If you watch any season after this video that you have not seen before, I cannot recommend Thailand season 2 hard enough because one, Vanda Miss Joachim, but also from Srimala because she's a lunatic and I love her. Watch it for Vanda. She is a joy to watch from start to finish. And I think she makes cool choices, not only on the runway, but also in the challenges. Her really only pain point in Thailand too is that she couldn't sew. I think that with the parameters now, sewing is such a loose term now. You don't really need to sew. You just need to know how to design something, really. And I think that Vanda would make it very far in a style like this. Like, she would hands down make it through bracket 1 and would probably make it pretty far into bracket 2, if not make it to the end. And so with this longer video, that has been my wish list for Drag Race All Stars 11. Again, almost all of these queens, probably 80% of them would, 1, never be called, and 2, would never show up. Especially, they would never ask these international girls, even if I feel so intently that they should be platforming international performers, because I think they all deserve opportunities. They deserve the bookings, they deserve the gigs, and they deserve the chance to show their artistry on an even bigger scale. Who would you like to see for All Stars 11? Again, we already know that it has been cast. It is already in the can, allegedly. But who do you want to see anyways? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And if you're interested, you could check out the Extravaganza Extra membership plan, which allows you to watch some of my posted content a few days sooner than everyone else. Thank you for watching, and I will see y'all on the flip.